Hello, my name is David Crocker, and today I'm going to be talking about public transportation in our suburban and urban neighborhoods. Now, before we begin, first I want to introduce my audience of one, my mother. There she is. Took her a minute, but she figured it out. The rest of my audience is either cats or they don't exist. So I have one more person than last time, but I don't have any more. Another thing is, obviously, I'm a little bit rushed here. I am still in my work uniform. I got home like 15 minutes ago, but we're going to roll with what we have. So onward with the presentation. To begin with, let's get the structure of everything we're going to be talking about for the next 10, 12 minutes. I think 12 is the requirement. I went 8 minutes over last time, so let's hope I don't do that again. First off, the thesis, the whole headline of the operation. Public transportation, we're going to be talking about what exactly that is to begin with, and then ask the question, do we actually have an issue? Is this something I really even need to be talking about for 15 minutes? Then we're going to be talking about health and casualties relating to what public transportation could possibly modify, reduce, or in some circumstances maybe increase, as well as concerning the economy. You know, what are the businesses going to get out of it? What are the cities, the little towns going to get out of it? We also will be dabbling into some environmental aspects while we're talking about that. And do we have examples of this actually working? And then to wrap this all up, we're going to conclude it with a neat little fun conclusion. Much similar to the thesis, but also give it a nice little talk, a little pep start to get us going. Now, the thesis: public transportation should be increased in suburban areas mainly, as well as lesser urban areas, because they have a high public need. They reduce injury risks as well as increase health overall, and they have severe economic and even environmental benefits. Now, first of all, what's public transportation specifically? Does Uber count? Do taxis count? Does Lyft count? And we're going to actually get a direct definition quote from this. So from our folks at the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, thank you Merriam-Webster, they defined it as a system of trains, buses, etc. that is paid for and ran by the government, that being any local government, state government, or federal government. Now, that's mainly what our focus is going to be. Now, what I'm going to mostly be talking about trains, various rail lines. Some people have tram cars, as well as buses. Buses are probably going to be the most common in most places, especially in America. Now, do we have an issue to begin with? I don't want to waste your time any more than I really want to be wasting my time before I have to go to work the next day. So, is this an issue I should even be talking about? So, we pulled up a study by Gillian B. White, or Gillian, I didn't get the time to ask him, from The Atlantic. In his report, Public Transportation is Failing America's Poor. Take a guess what his stance is. He says, the areas with the shoddiest access to public transit are the most impoverished. Many Americans without easy access to jobs, goods, and services. Now, why isn't it addressed in most places? And quite simply, it's an issue that really affects the low to moderate low income communities, you know, and conveniently government leaders don't exactly fit in that bracket, so they don't see the issue a lot, much the same as we don't see many issues on the other side of our town because we're all the way over here and the issue's over there, out of sight, out of mind, not our concern, not our problem. That's kind of the mentality we have going with right now, and it's problematic to say the least. Some of this data is also backed up by Berggren. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, and I thought I could go one presentation without mispronouncing something. Go back to my Chile presentation if you want to see that happen a lot. And from his report, Top 10 Benefits of Public Transportation from Smart Cities Dive. Now, of health and casualties, a major argument against public transportation is that it increases disease spreading. My cat just fell off the window. It increases disease spreading. It increases bacteria, and my dad would probably call it a germ infestation or a sickness hive. Thank you, Dad. And to that, not only I, but several other reports say no. Simply no. Actually, a little bit of the opposite if it's actually maintained correctly. A report from HEAPS, lovely name, from Public Transportation in the U.S., a driver of health and equity, guess which side he's on, from his report, Health Affairs and Health Policy, where it was published. Him and many others claim that the personal health aspect of it all helps increased personal activity. There can't be bus stops at the front door of every house like we have cars in the driveway of every house practically. So you're going to have to walk to the bus stop, which means more physical activity, more exercise, more going outdoors. Additionally, it reduces crashes. If you're not driving to go to a place, you're not going to crash unless the driver crashes. But even then, drivers are specifically trained to control their vehicles. They're trained to be defensive. So therefore, you're probably not going to crash unless some freak accident happened, in which case neither a bus nor car would save you from that incident happening. So overall, it's just less dangerous. We all know how we drive in Texas. It's horrible. I-45 has the most deaths in the entire nation in terms of interstate highways. Thank you very much, Texas. Now, it also reduces vehicle casualties, which is similar to the crashes. It reduces just how many people die in vehicles. And it's a bit of an out there claim, but it also reduces how many people close their garage doors and leave themselves with the car running inside. Yeah, apparently that's more of a statistic than I'd like to comment on, but here we are. Moving forward, concerning the economy. Now, of course, everything's political, so we're going to talk about the economy. Of course, we're going to talk about the economy. How does this affect the economy? Another huge argument is that putting all this federal or state funding into public transportation, or local funding if you're in cities, like municipal districts, so to speak, it's a waste of time. People just think it's a waste of time. You know, waste of time, waste of money that could be going to other things. And for one, I argue the only other thing that's going into other people's pockets. But another thing I argue, the actually more provable thing here, is once again from Bergen Christopher C. from the exact same report as mentioned earlier. It is not a big economic problem. It's not a big economic siphon from the pockets of the state or federal spending. It's actually really, really good, especially for local governments. Studies show, such as from Mr. Christopher over here, that property value in the area of a transit system increased 42%. And it's easy to understand why. If you don't have to drive your kids to and from school every single day, you could just have the bus take it. That's a lot better. If you don't have to continuously drive yourself to and from work, you're not spending money on gas, which means all of that money you get from work that would be going into your gas tank is going into your pocket instead. So obviously, if you were to live there, it would be much more valuable. Additionally, employment increases because now transit lines need not only drivers, they also need cleaners, sanitation workers. They also need people managing the bus lines, managing the systems, maintaining the buses. So that is a huge plus, especially for local communities, especially for impoverished communities. We have a very specific example that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. And it's just a really nice improvement overall. There's no reason you really shouldn't, honestly. Now, continuing the economy, we're going to go a bit more into the environmental side for all my fellow green activists out there. Thank you very much for caring about the trees and the seas. There is a lot less road congestion if we have a lot more public transit. And again, if you're in the Houston area like I am, it's painful. I have to drive 30 minutes to see my girlfriend every other day, and it's increased by 10 minutes at least, depending on what construction or what traffic is going there. I hate it. It's insufferable. And if we had more bus transportation, I guarantee you that number would drop down severely by like a whole 30%. Additionally, less cars on the road means less pollution. Buses don't put out much more gas than a car would, because buses typically go the same distance and amount of miles as cars would, except with how many people they're putting onto the buses. Any increase that it has over a car, even a very unoptimized car such as mine, which runs on 12 miles a gallon, even then it's negated because of just the amount of people it's able to take. One bus, let's say it goes at 10 miles per gallon, which typically isn't true, that's a very low ball, carries about 50 passengers. That's 50 less people on the road, which is another huge benefit, and that's a lot less pollution being generated overall. Now, most of these things were done from Sierra Club, Wisconsin, from their report, 5 Reasons for Better Transit, in their publication of Sierra Club, Wisconsin. They're not very creative with their names. Now, do we have examples of this working? Because a lot of this sounds like from studies that I haven't put any charts on the board for, and people whose names I only have pronounced correctly, and also we really don't care about. So what example can I actually use to prove this is working? Give her a minute, she's clawing the boxes there. I might have to get her. Well, from the study, Medellin, I probably pronounced that wrong again, Metro Cable by Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize. I definitely pronounced that wrong. It is the world's first aerial cable car system made in 2004. When I say aerial cable car system, it's pretty similar to what you might see with ski lifts, except this is made specifically for suburban and lesser urban transit, not to get to a ski resort you have on the 12,000 foot tall mountain because you wanted to do that for some reason on your summer vacation. Now, this majorly improved every aspect of life down there. Suddenly, this, for context, this city is kind of multi-tier elevation. So there was a lovely dotted area of lesser income communities up here, and then the main city way down here, and then another slightly larger, more higher income up there, and then of course everything was spread out. So transit was typically 30 minutes to an hour depending on where your job was. This cable car system dropped it to 10 minutes to get to your job, where the week before it was almost an hour. That's a major improvement. Absolutely. And it increased employment, access to education, and essential services. Our 911 calls were, in our example here in Houston, our 911 calls might be able to get to places faster because there's a third less cars on the road that they can likely crash into. Thank you very much, Texas drivers. This proves it is a very, very possible thing of working. And also, take any European city, for example. Their buses, especially London, they have double-decker buses. They've been running with that for decades, and I don't think we've seen many negative things out of that. It's just a huge improvement overall. You hear way less incidents from them than you do from us. Now, to wrap all this up, once again, public transportation needs to be put into suburban and lesser urban areas, especially for anecdotes for me personally. Getting to school takes 30 minutes because there are way too many cars on the road, and all of my friends are over there, and even they who live 5 minutes from campus don't have access to rides home. So we end up having to take them home because there's just no way for them to get home, which is painful for everybody involved. I get home half an hour later, they might have to call a $34 Uber, which shouldn't be happening. It's a huge public need. And contrary to popular belief, it's a health improvement. Better exercise, better physical health in general. And, you know, if the government doesn't skimp out on the whole sanitation thing, you're not going to be getting sick any more often than you do at your retail job talking to John the White Smoker from the truck station. Now, it's also economically beneficial. Increases property value, employment, essential services are easier to get across the city. It's just an improvement overall. So I gotta ask, when are you gonna call your public official and ask for your community to have public transit and make your lives better? Thank you very much. Please take one more look at my audience and listen to the cat clawing the box above you. And good night.